welcome to today's webinar, Attracting and Working with Canadian Home Buyers and Sellers. I'm Callie Waterhouse with the Arizona Association of Realtors, and today's webinar is all about developing and marketing to Canadian home buyers and sellers with Realtor Tricia Lehane. Tricia will be sharing how she has grown a lucrative Arizona real estate business by marketing specifically to our Canadian neighbors. She'll share her insights and experiences with property pricing, financing, and home purchase practices. And we're really going to delve into the differences between our two countries and our two cultures. So since beginning her real estate career in Arizona, Tricia developed an outstanding client base throughout Manitoba and the Canadian Western provinces, including British Columbia. And she has grown to be one of the most successful Arizona realtors, with the Canadian connection being awarded top producer in foreign sales by DPR Realty. And in addition to being the 2015 Women Council of Realtors State President, Tricia holds several professional designations, including the At Home with Diversity, the prestigious GRI, the Masters of Real Estate, and the Certified International Property Specialist designations. And just so you know, today's presentation will be about 45 minutes long, followed by about 15 minutes of Q&A. And if you have any questions during today's webinar, please write them in the question box as you see on your screen, and we will address them. Also, at the conclusion of today's webinar, there will be a small feedback survey that we'd like you to answer. And as always, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website by the end of the week. So at this time, I would like to say welcome, Tricia.
Callie, thank you so much for inviting me to present this webinar. Just to give everybody a little bit of history, I lived in Canada, I can't say how many years. We'll just leave it at 30 plus, because if I told you how many, then you'd be trying to do the numbers and figure out how old I am. But I lived in every Western province, starting in Manitoba, even lived in the Yukon territory. So a real mixed, diverse of life there. And plus, I had the opportunity to travel personally and business throughout all of Canada. And it's huge. If you want to just click on to the next, the next question. So my big thing is, and I'll just sort of retract, I think the biggest thing is when we're working with buyers or sellers is to understand who they are and what's important to them. You know, I'm a education junkie, and I think we've always got to remember it's not about us, it's about them. And through this presentation today, I'm hoping to help you identify and understand a little bit more about Canada, and that way you can relate to your clients in a much stronger way. Okay, does Canada have states, provinces, or territories? We want you to tell us in your little question box which is the correct answer.
Okay, so the question is, does Canada have states, provinces, or territories? Jason is correct. Douglas? Ben, very honest answer. He does not know. Provinces, all of them. We're kind of all over the board here. So I have a lot of yes. Douglas, that's a good answer. All right, Linda does not know, but you know what? It looks like we're about 33% straight across the board. Violet, you are correct. All right, Tricia, what is the answer?
Okay, provinces and territories.
So both of them. So for those of you who said both, you get a little red star next to your names.
Exactly. So yes, we have provinces and territories. So here's a full map of Canada. And what I've done throughout the presentation further as we go, I've extracted the variety of provinces, but I just want you to see how large it is. Canada became a country in 1867 on the 1st of July, and as we celebrate the 4th of July, Canada celebrates Canada Day, which is July the 1st every year. And it's a huge celebration. So you can see with the mass size, Canada is the second largest country in the world. There's 10 provinces and 3 territories. The provinces are all along the bottom and the territories are all along the top. The Yukon, the Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. So the total population is quite small, 35.16 million. 81% of the population resides in the cities. 90% of the Canadians are within 100 miles of the U.S. border. And believe it or not, there's 400,000 people daily that is access traffic to the United States. And there's 300 businesses in Arizona from Canada. And I love this part. Languages spoken is English, French, and of course everybody knows Canadians say A. I have several friends, family in Canada, and they ask me, are you going to say A? Well, A is sort of like our huh. And I can't say I really like either one of them, but it's part of the real world. And you know, what was that Canadian show, Kelly, from Edmonton? Do you remember that? No. I mean, they used A about every sentence. And I have friends up there that still do. And Canada uses the metric system, kilometers and Celsius. So that's something that's significantly different. And I will just add in here, American Thanksgiving is always the end of November. Canadian Thanksgiving is the second Monday in October, which I love. I think the United States, we should move our Thanksgiving. That way we don't have two giant meals and family gatherings within a month of each other. So,
are you thinking of the McKenzie brothers?
The McKenzie brothers, look at that.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, somebody, there you go, Jennifer. But I mean, sometimes it was sort of almost embarrassing to me that they sort of represented Canada, but oh well. And one other thing I think is really sort of interesting is Boxing Day in Canada is sort of like our Black Friday. And that's the day after Christmas, which is December 26th. Amazing shopping opportunities. But Boxing Day basically came from back in the days of sleighs and everything. People would literally pack up their leftovers and go see their friends or give it to their staff. That's why Boxing Day evolved. So I'm sure everybody knows hockey is Canada's national sport. Wayne Gretzky, famous hockey player, Mike Weir, love him, golf, and Steve Nash, who used to be with us. Phoenix played basketball. And then there's several other famous people from Canada, but I just wanted to share a few. Celine Dion, Shania Twain, Justin Bieber, he's making his comeback. Mike Myers, Anne Murray, Michael Bublé. Now, I want you guys to notice on that picture on the left, that's me cheek to cheek with Michael Bublé when he was just being discovered by David Foster. And the other picture is David Foster with a couple of my girlfriends and I. And that's about 12 years old. But yeah, Michael Bublé, look what a star he's become. Wow. An amazing Canadian journalist, Peter Jennings, Alex Trebek, Lloyd Robertson, Morley Safer, actor, actress Michael J. Fox, Pamela Anderson. Like I said, this is just a little bit of fun trivia that I wanted to share with you. Okay, everybody knows that Canada has the RCMP. At one point, I was coordinator for the RCMP out of British Columbia, and they would ride 600 miles to raise money for children. And it was Cots for Kids. And I got to tell you, I just had so much respect for them. Who's heard of poutine? Poutine has to be one of the most sinful things that you can eat. French fries with gravy and cheese curds. The first time I ever had the opportunity to experience this was about a block from where the Montreal Canadiens play hockey. And oh my goodness, just beyond deliciousness. Matter of fact, there's a business in Tempe, and they're Canadian owners that now have poutine. So, wow. Tim Hortons coffee, it is famous. It's sort of like Starbucks here. There is Tim Hortons everywhere. And then the Canadian temperature is Celsius. 0 Celsius is 32 Fahrenheit. And I also thought that you should know this. In Canada, they have a social insurance number. The picture on the top right-hand side is what a Canadian Social Security or Social Insurance number. And believe it or not, it is 9 digits, the same as a Social Security number here. And then I also put the funny money, as people call it. A loonie is the gold, a toonie, that's $1. The toonie is a $2, and the rest of the money is all colored. A lot of people think it looks like Monopoly money, but it's really interesting that they don't make the Canadian penny anymore. So if it's $1.74, they just round it up to $1.75, and if it's $1.76, they round it down to $1.75. So I thought, now isn't that interesting?
That's interesting. Government. There's a prime minister of
Yes,
Canada.
we have a brand new prime minister in Canada, Justin.
Sorry.
No, I know. Of course, he's a past prime minister's son, Trudeau, Justin Trudeau. The election just happened earlier this year, in probably October, and I think they're changing the tax structure in Canada. They say the people that are in the income level of $40,000 to $80,000, they're going to be reducing their taxes. And the people over $80,000, they're going to be increasing their taxes, which I think in turn will affect our market here in Arizona a little bit. So thank you for asking that question. Okay, who has heard of Cirque du Soleil? I think most of us have had the opportunity to go and spend $200 or $300, $400 per ticket at a Cirque du Soleil performance. This started in Quebec, Canada. And I mean, it started off as people just doing dancing and breathing fire, and look how they are national performing all over the world today. Okay, demographics. I think this is really interesting. The demographics in Canada is still 80% Caucasian, 6% Asian, 5% Native, 4% Indian, and 4% Black. So, but also, as I say that, look at the statistics of the population throughout the variety of provinces and how many people live in Ontario, British Columbia, BC. So as you can see, the majority of people live in Ontario. Second is Quebec. 3 is British Columbia. And 4th is Alberta. And I'll just let you look at the age profile. And these are the most recent statistics I was able to get, was 2011. So I think that's really interesting too. But just remember as well, the majority of the population live 100 miles from the U.S. border. So that's why the majority of the population from there is really minimal. So, okay, next let's talk about the Canadian dollar. As I said, there's loonies and toonies, and when our market had crashed, the Canadian dollar, as you can see in the graph in the middle, was very strong. Today, the Canadian dollar, a dollar is $1.34 US. So in the next while, we are going to see many more people selling their homes here instead of buying. So it's a perfect time to buy. I mean, let's even sort of use an average of 30 cents on the dollar right now. If somebody sells a $300,000 house, that's an additional $90,000. I mean, that's absolutely huge. So I did want to just point out, in 1972 to 2015, the average was $1.22. And now, like I said, $1.34 US. So that's really significant. And on the graph on the loonie on the right, you can see the up and down. And the projection is, and it's sort of interesting, Kelly, the Canadian dollar has a tendency to follow gas and oil prices. So when gas and oil are down, so is the Canadian dollar.
Oh, that's interesting.
So next, I have a map just showing you. Currently, there are over 25,000 Canadian owners in Maricopa County. which the map shows, the red. And there's also thousands and thousands of homeowners in Pinal County. But that's the only tracking that's available to us is in the Maricopa County. And I think this is really interesting statistics, is Canada and the US trade $734 billion in goods and services. There's an average of 1.4 million in every minute of every day. And there's more than 8 million US jobs depend on trade and investment within Canada. On average, Canadian goods sold to the US contain 25% of US content. Canada is the #1 customer to 35 states. Total Canada-Arizona goods and trades is $3.7 billion. And just a reminder, once again, there's 300 businesses just in Arizona alone and growing every day. So I do want to take time to talk about the CIPS designation. It is a National Association of Realtors official designation. It's international real estate opportunities are everywhere. The Certified International Property Specialist designation is a NAR designation. When you become certified as a CIPS, and you can go on to NAR and just look up designations and see what is required. But there's about 5 days of schooling. And of course, as any other designation, unless it's your GRI or RSPS, you do pay an annual fee to be a member of the CIPS. And here in Arizona, the Southeast Valley Association have formed a global alliance, started by Janet Kane, who's their CEO there. And there is a meeting tomorrow. However, I wanted to at least bring it to your attention. It's too late for you to register. But if you do have any interest, email Kelly or myself or reach out to the Southeast Valley. I think there's about 20 or 30 members statewide. They're the only association in Arizona that have a global council. Great opportunities to meet Canadians here while they're in Arizona. On February 6th, 2016, there is a Great Canadian Picnic, and this is the 64th annual. It's at South Mountain Park, and the website is there on the link. The February 9th and 10th is the Canadian Snowbird Extravaganza. I've gone to that a few times. It's at the Mason Convention Center from 9:30 to 4. Currently, there are not any booths available. They sell out about 6 months to a year in advance. So if that's something you have interest in, it's a great way to touch Canadian potential home buyers and sellers, as well as people that are coming down that might want to become a buyer. And then February 13th, it's sort of all in February, is the Can-Am Golf Tournament at Papago Golf Course. And Kelly is going to be sending out this presentation, so it'll be a great resource for you to draw from if you need dates and that type of a thing. And then marketing to Canadians. You know, back in the day when I became a brand new realtor, they said, work with your sphere. Well, I moved here from the interior of British Columbia, and I really didn't have a sphere. So I started going to major Canadian cities and putting on workshops. And all of the cities, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Regina, Winnipeg, and Saskatoon, I've done marketing workshops to attract Canadian buyers to come to Arizona. And what I would do is advertise in the local papers as well as magazines and rent a hotel room and actually have several hundred people come out and just basically educate them about how the process works. For a lot of people that have never been to Arizona, I think that they're always very pleasantly surprised when they come down here. I think they expect us to be strictly desert, but with that, I educate them as to what the process is. As well, advertising Canada. I mean, right now, direct mail is a great opportunity, especially for people that are considering selling. we're not attracting the buyers specifically because of the Canadian dollar. And then ask your title company if they have a list of Canadian homeowners. You can email. I think I made a mistake there. You cannot email to Canadians, because just within the last year they have come out with a ruling that you could be fined significantly if you send email. But right now there isn't anything specific on mailing. And then of course social media, which I personally want to develop and grow more. So a lot of people have great success in working with social media to target buyers and sellers, and that's something I want to do stronger. Once again, knowledge is power, and that's why I put together the information for you about this information about Canada, because I think the more you can understand who they are, it will make you a better agent. And then Kelly, Kelly, did you actually upload this handout, or you're going to be sending it out after? Okay. So this is basically an updated PowerPoint presentation that I put together, more to just educate buyers and sellers about how the process works, because it's really quite different in Canada and a lot of the Midwest and eastern parts of the States. They work only through lawyers. Like, and it's sort of similar, but even with financing, you can actually close a property in 2 to 3 weeks. Traditionally, they're more like 6 to 8 weeks, but they don't have the whole process that we go through. And what I do is in that handout, you'll see I have the timing, who pays for what. It makes a big difference in how they approach the whole scenario. And in there, I show about the Canadian dollar, a variety of lenders, and that type of a thing. But I think that's why they need us, is to work through and understand the process.
And this handout is available for those of you that are on laptops or desktops. On your GoToWebinar side panel, it says handout, and it says, Canadian handout. It's right there. For those of you who are on your phone, I will include this handout in our follow-up email.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. What is FIRPTA? And I don't want to go into real detail on this, and I'm sure most of you know it's the Foreign Investment and Real Property Tax Act. When homes are valued $300,000 and up, there is a 10% withholding tax. The title company is obligated to withhold. There are ways that people can get this back, and I have resources at the end. Fabulous Mary Heather Stiles, she has a business that she's helped several of my Canadian clients apply for a tax identification number. As well, if they're having a property here that they're having as a rental income property, they need to have a tax identification number and be reporting those monies to IRS. So, but just to bring to your attention about the Foreign Investment and Real Property Tax Act, as well as if a property is under $300,000, and you have to sort of learn through trial and experience, but it has to be a primary homeowner to have the taxes not be withheld. If it's an investor and they're buying the home potentially to have as a rental, they can't sign the documentation identifying that they're going to be a primary homeowner. They don't have to be a 12-month-a-year homeowner, but they do have to identify when the home is used, even if it's 2 weeks, that they're going to be using the home 50% of that 2 weeks. So, important to know. Then what I've also put together is opportunities for you to reach out to Canadian realtors. The Canadian Real Estate Association is actually in Ottawa, Ontario, the capital of Canada. And here's a couple of different opportunities, and I have the contact information for all of the provinces as well, territories, and the Canadian Real Estate Association. So a couple of opportunities for referral opportunities is through www.realtor.ca, as well as, once again, the CIPS network. In May of 2016, they have an event, as well as there is an expo, and they move it across country, sort of like National Association of Realtors do. And the one for the CIPS is in May, and the other conference in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, and a beautiful time of the year to go is the end of July in 2016. It's interesting because there's a lot of people, realtors in Canada, that have clients already that own properties here. So it would be a good opportunity for referrals to just reach out to them and say, do you have a Canadian client that already has a home in Arizona? Is it something that they are considering selling? Let me be your resource for listing their home. So I thought this was really interesting to statistics as well. Top cities searched by international buyers in Canada. Number 1 is Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Mississauga, Ottawa, Montreal. I won't go through all of them, but that gives you an idea. Toronto and Vancouver are number 1. And that's what I sort of skipped past before, is the majority of people that buy homes in Arizona are more from Alberta, British Columbia. Manitoba is probably 3rd, and then Saskatchewan. Most people from Eastern Canada buy more in Florida just because of the commute time, flying time. So, okay. And this once again sort of shows the statistics for international buyers in Canada. I think that's what I really appreciate about the Certified International Property Specialist designation, is the information that we get provided to us through this designation. So we can literally help people find a realtor from all over the world and get that referral fee. So as you can see, in the United States, the number 1 searched areas, number 1, Toronto, 2, Calgary, Mississauga, Vancouver, and Victoria. And what I find really interesting about this is property values, which we'll see here in a little bit. Toronto, their average price of a home is $1.4 million, and comparable to Vancouver. So
I'm sure we can find a home for them here in Arizona.
I think we can, and I didn't bother putting any listings from Arizona in this PowerPoint, but just keep it in perspective. So, okay. So here we go again with the map from Canada. According to the Canadian Real Estate Association, the national average of a home is about $440,000. I think what's interesting is most single-family homes in Canada have basements. Not all of them are finished, but sort of like our Midwestern people, when they purchase a home here, they really miss having a basement. So, and I found this really interesting, just putting this information together on their realtor.ca, and I don't think we see much of it here, but all of their cities have a walk score. So I think that's really interesting too. British Columbia, it's not far on the west coast, and here, like I said, this is an average detached home is $442,296. I mean, is that ridiculous? 1.4. So in Vancouver, and I put a little condo there, 790 square feet, and this is $440,000. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. In Victoria, which is on the island of British Columbia, you get a 1,477 square foot townhouse, so a little bit more bang for your buck with a garage. But Vancouver, if you have the opportunity of getting something for $440,000, most of the time it's more in the outlying areas. But Vancouver hosted the Olympics in 2010, and they have an amazing transit system there. And like I said, all of the each one of these, you have the contact information for the association, so if you want to explore them.
What Arizona city would Vancouver be most like?
Let's do Scottsdale.
Like Scottsdale?
Okay. Mind you, it's funny, I have a Canadian client, when he was looking at buying, and he ended up buying in Greyhawk, I talked to him about the Scottsdale waterfront. He says, Trish, they call that a waterfront? Of course, because Vancouver has the ocean and the mountains.
They have real water.
They have real water. Real water. Okay, Alberta. Alberta probably is the #1 province of having home owners in Arizona. A lot of oil money that people bring down here, as well as very successful businesses. So Calgary, detached home, average price is $460,000, $461,000. Edmonton, $433,000. So in Calgary, $440,000 gets you a 1,321 square foot condo in downtown Calgary. But of course, I mean, Calgary and all of these cities are a lot like we are. You know, we say the greater Phoenix area, but that encompasses Glendale, Scottsdale, Phoenix, all of the East Valley, Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert. So they have several communities just like we do, and the price average varies quite significantly. And it's sort of the same as here. The further you drive, the more bang of home that you get for your property. Saskatchewan and Manitoba, more Saskatchewan have a very strong oil industry, and they're suffering quite a bit right now just because of what's happening in the oil industry. Saskatoon is the further northern city, Regina is further south. As you can see, Saskatchewan, you get more of a home for $440,000 compared to what you get in Alberta and British Columbia. You know, here's the typical home in Regina. As you can see, built in 1986, quite a bit older, a 2-story, 1,746 square feet. Manitoba, actually that's, I've lived in all of these western provinces, but I'm going to be spending the Christmas holidays here, and it has the potential of being -30 Celsius, which is pretty scary. But Manitoba, it's interesting because if you have a home under $300,000, they still have bidding wars, and they don't even allow you to do a home inspection. If you put your home submission, offer submission is conditional to a home inspection, it's not even considered. It's just put aside. So anyway, but you can get a newer home with an attached garage and, of course, the basement, more in the $440,000 price range. Brandon is a small community about 2 hours west of Winnipeg, and once again, for $440,000, you get a very nice property. Ontario, the largest population base in Canada. Toronto, you get for $440,000 a 900 square foot condo, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Ottawa is the capital of Canada, and there you get a detached home. Ottawa is quite a lot older, and because it's where the government base is, you don't have sort of that strong base like you do in Toronto. Thunder Bay is a smaller community, so once again here you get more bang for your buck. Toronto, just once again to point out, and a lot of, they call it, they don't call it homeowners association fees in Canada, they call it stratus fees. So they pay $653 for their stratus fees.
Was that in addition to their mortgage fees?
In addition to their mortgage fees and taxes, sort of like our homeowners association fees.
Wow, that's kind of like New York.
Exactly, exactly. Quebec is such a sexy province. Montreal, the majority of women there spend, I think they save 45% on how they look.
Wow.
But what an amazing city. Quebec is the second highest speaking next to Paris.
Speaking French?
Speaking French. when people say, Kelly asked me if I speak French, and I just say, well, it's sort of interesting because French is sort of like Spanish. Un, dos, trois. Spanish, uno, dos, tres. So when people would ask me if I parlez-vous français, I'd just say no. Okay, so Montreal, going back to that higher value, for $440,000 gets you a 931 square foot duplex, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Quebec City is north of Montreal, just a really historic city. There you get a single family detached home for your $440,000. So you can see that property in Montreal is built in 1946 in an older community, part of Montreal, with lots of personality. Amazing restaurants. Mm-hmm. So then going further east, we have Newfoundland and Labrador. And if you went back to the population, you could see there isn't a real strong population. But here you've got a lot of bang for your buck. For $440,000 in St. John's, you get a 4-bedroom home with an attached garage. Same thing in Conception Bay. In New Brunswick, which is sort of that little island off of Quebec between Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. And I'm not going to go through all of these stats. I just wanted to give you an idea as to what Moncton is their capital. Nova Scotia is just a fabulous city. Once again, an island. Their main base of occupation is fishing. So, you know, beautiful area, but they have some pretty amazing bad winters as well. So anyway.
Bad winters.
Bad winters.
How many feet of snow?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, that's it. In most parts of Canada, when they get snow, it stays with you from November right through to March, April. And this is something I didn't put in there, is about mosquitoes. The big thing that I don't think that we realize how lucky we are in Arizona is we don't have the bugs. Like, we do have scorpions and termites, but most of these Canadian provinces and territories have wicked, wicked mosquitoes and black flies. So anyway.
So you said they have a terrible winter from November to May. So what a great opportunity for all of our Arizona realtors to really like boost up their marketing here from November to May.
Exactly.
To say, hey, you know, this is a great time for open houses and the second home marketing at this point.
Exactly. Exactly. Same as, you know, with the winter we had in the United States, they had equally as bad last year. And maybe we aren't going to be having the Canadians buying this year, but if we have, just from history of the weather we had last year, we'll have the strong snowbird season. And like I said, with that dollar the way it is right now, it's a great opportunity. I think people are thinking about selling to consider doing it now.
So I would think like around January, February, when our Canadian neighbors are under 50 feet of snow.
Not that bad.
And it's negative 30 degrees. January and February would be a really good time to send that postcard that says, gee,
exactly.
Don't you wish you were in Arizona right about now? Right?
Exactly. Exactly. And then the Yukon, that's up above British Columbia. Whitehorse is the state capital. And believe it or not, you would think, since it's vast land, that you would be able to really get a lot for $440,000. But look at that. You get a 1,900, like you actually get as much or more in Winnipeg than you do in Whitehorse. Dawson City, it's just a very small town north of Whitehorse. And I lived in the Yukon for a short time, 18 months. And I moved up there and I bought an Isuzu Rodeo because I thought, I'm going to be living in the wild. I need an SUV. But there's as many little Ford Fiestas driving around Whitehorse as there is here. So anyway.
Really fun name cities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Northwest Territories, once again, very dense population and people that choose to live that lifestyle. They do get tax incentives for living in the north. It allows you the opportunity to get out. But here, once again, 1,520 square foot home for $440,000. I mean, that's expensive living. But you can see how large it is. And then Nunavut is the largest space covered, and their homes are 600,000. Or it's amazing, and in these northern locations, how many modular homes there are too. So interesting. But I thought that would just give you a little bit of a taste as to what, so people can appreciate and understand what our property values and why Arizona is so attractive to so many Canadians.
So how would you compare a $440,000 home in Canada to here in Arizona? What would be the comparison? Is it just based on location?
Well, location, of course. I mean, we have cement base. We don't have basements. I think it's quality of lifestyle, and I think a lot of what I shared with you today is to help you understand the quality of lifestyle that they have there. You know, and everybody talks about the Canadian healthcare is the answer, but Canadians pay a huge amount of tax, probably upwards of 50%.
Oh, wow.
And Canadians can only be out of the country a maximum of 180 days a year, or they could position themselves to potentially lose their health care coverage and susceptible to IRS commitment financial obligations.
Can you repeat that beginning part? Canadians can only be out of the country
180 days maximum. And even when they look at selling their home, if it's over the $300,000, the tax specialist will want them to be able to, for the last 3 to 5 years, identify the dates that they were in the United States, and they can't exceed the average of 180 days.
That's 180 days per year.
Per year. So it's really important, especially with, you know, all of the tracking opportunities they have now with passports and everything. And, you know, after 9/11, you cannot go to Canada without a passport. You have to have a passport to cross a driving border or flying. And they track all of that information now. So you have to make sure you're legit with all the information that you provide.
So if you own a $440,000 home in Canada, what would you be looking for here?
Well, it depends. And, you know, that's what I find really interesting. You know, some people, they don't care whether they're in Maricopa or Santan Valley. I use those as examples. All they want to do is be away from the cold. If they live in Toronto or Vancouver, most likely they want to be in Scottsdale or in the core, where they have opportunities to take advantage of the fine dining and that type of a thing.
Golf.
And golf. I mean, but that's what's so great about our area is we can cater to and offer a variety of opportunities to everybody. And I do point out our MLS covers 12,000 square miles. So a lot of it depends on what your budget is. So, but you know, Lee Cooley actually sent me an email, and even their attendance for the Great Canadian Picnic is down a lot. And I have a lot of my clients that are not coming down this winter because they decided to just maybe take advantage of it and let family and friends use it because of the Canadian dollar. So things like that are important to consider.
Do you have any stats or opinions about Tucson? Do you see, is that a viable area for them?
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, I don't, Kelly, I don't have any stats, but I know there's several Canadians. A lot of Canadians buy in Tucson as well as Lake Havasu. A lot of people, and more that drive down, because you can't just fly direct nonstop. That's what I do like about the greater Phoenix area. At Sky Harbor, there's several airlines that fly direct nonstop daily into Sky Harbor, as well as twice a week they're at the Allegiant Airlines out at Phoenix Gateway. They fly probably twice a week, not into Canada, but within an hour to 2 hour drive of Canada. Like often if I go see my daughter in Winnipeg, I might fly into Grand Forks and save quite a significant amount of money.
So it seems to me that if they're flying into Phoenix, what a great opportunity to have a kiosk at the Sky Harbor.
Yeah, I haven't ever actually checked that out. But the big thing, I think, for all of us is time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Absolutely. I know when Super Bowl was here, the committee had a kiosk at Sky Harbor and fielded like 10,000 questions a day about our environment and our weather and what's to do and where to go. I mean, what a great opportunity.
Oh, definitely. So now I just want to share a few resources. Here's several books. Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands. I think that's just an international book that's a great resource for us to be able to understand any culture throughout the world. And then there's several other books that I think are extremely beneficial to us, just being able to have as a resource to share with our Canadian clients. It does go into detail, FERPTA and all of that, so, and what's beneficial. I think, and I actually was having this conversation just this past week, and it's a Canadian client from Manitoba, Winnipeg, and he's an accountant. There's a lot of people that are buying properties out there in their individual names, which is fine, husband and wife, but there's a lot of people that are buying their properties in limited companies and LLCs, and when they go to sell it, they're going to be in trouble. And I don't want to go into that as far as what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing, but it's important to help them when they purchase the home to make sure they're purchasing it in the proper name, because they might have a Canadian accountant that really doesn't know the details on how they should be doing it.
And I think, as you mentioned earlier, they're used to working with lawyers.
Yes.
And attorneys.
Right.
So probably here in the United States, an excellent idea to work with somebody in title who has experience.
Right, exactly. And then here's just a couple more resources. Mary Heather Stiles is a tax specialist that I've had help several Canadian clients, actually goes right down to the IRS, helps them get their tax identification number. Mike Abel, I think probably a lot of you know, does training with a title company here in the greater Phoenix area. Keats Conley, a great resource, and they're very involved in helping with the Great Canadian Picnic as well as the golf tournament. And I think in the handout that Kelly sent out is a great resource for you to be able to provide that information to Canadians, just as far as financing for Canadians, what they could potentially look for in lifestyle, types of properties that they want to consider. I think, like I said earlier, I think a lot of people don't realize that we aren't just all desert here, that we have mountains and lakes.
And in your handout, you talk about things that they can expect here in Arizona, kind of like what we've done today with what you can expect from the Canadian market.
Right.
So in your experience, Tricia, what's been like, tell me 3 things that you've done from a marketing perspective to grow your database or build relationships with our Canadian neighbors. Do you find that, you know, updating Facebook is good? Do you think postcards? I think the top 3 ways.
Initially is going directly there to do the marketing workshops and educating people about the differences and showing them actual samples of properties you can't sell while you're there, but just to give them an idea of what they can actually get for $400,000 here in comparison. And then staying in touch with snail mail as regular email. And I think a lot of the time they really enjoy having the opportunity of receiving statistics about where the market's at.
And then you had given the 2016 things to do to connect. What about if our members, you said that the booths were all sold out, maybe reach out to those organizers, see if they could do raffle prizes or anything like that. I think there's always a way. We may not have a booth.
Well, even just attending those events as a participant, I think, you know, getting a feeling of it, you know, the picnic, the golf tournament, and the event at the Convention Center in Mesa, I think, puts you out there. And even if you meet 25 people and have the opportunity to pass your business card on to 5 Canadians, they might know somebody, oh, by the way, you know what? Because statistics show us that most realtors don't stay in touch with their clients like they should. You might have an opportunity to say, hey, pick me.
Yeah.
So
I would think that even volunteering for the event at the Phoenix Convention Center,
right,
or at the Mesa Community Center, I mean, excuse me, if you were to stand at the door, and have your little volunteer badge
exactly.
on and your realtor badge, that exposure alone is priceless.
Exactly. And by the way, the Phoenix Business Journal, and just Google it, is actually having a Canadian global breakfast tomorrow morning. So that would be a great resource for you to consider. It's actually at the Sheraton Grand tomorrow morning starting at 7 o'clock.
That's the Phoenix Business Journal?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about, you do snail mail, connecting. What about videos, YouTube?
I've got to do a better job at that. I'm just a single person, and it all takes time, and that's my goal for 2016. As a matter of fact, just this past 6 months to a year, I've started doing more snail mail to Canada, and actually I'm getting a return on it.
So I would think, Douglas, to answer your question, Periscope is real huge right now, Snapchat. I think anything that you do with 100% effort.
Right.
You have your SEO, quite a bit that plays into it. I think you just need to connect with your potential clients wherever they're at.
And staying in touch with your past clients. I mean, This year I've sold several homes of people that I helped them find their home to buy, and now, they've decided for the time to take a break away from the Arizona market, so they're selling and taking advantage of that $300,000 for $390,000. That's a significant difference.
So we just have one question from Susan. She was wondering, how long does it take? Well, hold on. How long does it take? I have to get back over. Sorry, folks. To get a tax number.
Actually, if you go right down to the IRS, which is on Central, you can actually get it that day. But you can apply for it online as well. But like I said, I think critical is knowing what you're doing, and a lot of accountants and individual people don't know. Like I have clients actually that are here right now from where I used to live in British Columbia, and they went right down to the IRS just to protect themselves, even though their home isn't selling for $300,000. But the IRS told them they didn't need a tax identification number. So I think the big thing is just making sure you cover off your bases, and
absolutely
not ever directing our clients what they should or should not be doing when it comes to taxation and the FERPTA. We need to be knowledgeable, but not telling them or directing them in any way.
Okay, so Jason has a question about, does the direct mail that you send to people that you don't have an established relationship with fall under the provincial real estate licensing requirement for advertising?
No. To my understanding, I'm going to answer that lightly. To my understanding, you can mail, you just cannot email.
All right, and then we have Tricia's contact information on the screen. So Tricia at ArizonaCanadianConnection.com, or you can call or text 602-689-9977. And Fernella, let's see, I am a Canadian U.S. citizen at Coldwell Banker. I returned to Canada for the summer. How, where can go to make connections? In Canada or in Arizona?
Well, I think she could reach out to all of the Coldwell Banker offices, and just ask for resources or potentially put a workshop on.
Absolutely.
And in the community, as a matter of fact, the very first workshop that I did was preparing for Vancouver in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I did it in July in 2008, just to sort of use it as my dress rehearsal for Vancouver. And the reason I did it in Vancouver is the client that bought a property in Greyhawk said, Trish, you've got to be coming up to Vancouver, because I'm one of many people from British Columbia that want to buy a house down there. And so I did it as a test run, and I had probably 60 people in the middle of July coming out to see what it takes to buy a home in Arizona.
I would also think with Coldwell Banker, as a Arizona realtor, being a part of a larger franchise,
right.
I would go up there, sponsor breakfast,
right.
Explain how wonderful Arizona is.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get an immediate client, all that referral business.
Exactly. And keep pointing out to them, I'm sure you must have people that are clients of yours already that have a home in Arizona.
Or have been here and visited the Grand Canyon.
Exactly. And they're considering, get that referral fee. It all adds up.
Absolutely. Douglas, what a great question. Douglas's last name is Trudeau.
Yes.
So positive or negative that he has the same last name as our new Prime Minister?
Well, I think it's sort of like our government. Don't you, Kelly? Honestly, I think, government is a very interesting topic. I think Canada was ready for a change. And so right now, for at least while he's doing things right, hopefully it's a good thing.
I would think so. I think you're going to be enjoying everybody asking you if you're related to the new Prime Minister. And I think that would be the biggest question. Well, folks, thank you so much for your questions. We appreciate it. And I just want to remind you that we have 2 more webinars for the balance of 2015. Oh, you are related to him. Oh, you know what? I would monetize that quickly.
Exactly.
Okay, so for the balance of 2015, we have 2 more webinars coming up. Part 3 of our 3-part series with Jim Sexton on TRID coming up next week, and we have Fletcher Wilcox from Grand Canyon Title joining us. So we're just going to implement a little bit of a different perspective. Going to invite Title to join us and see how things are going with them and the direction that we're all going with TRID. We've had so much education that I'm just hearing great things on how well our transactions are going. So I'm feeling kind of encouraged that this next webinar is going to be some more nuts and bolts, which makes me very happy. And then our last webinar of 2015, Broker University with Unlicensed Activity and Assistance. This is with attorney Rick Mack. Please note that is a special time. It's at 9:30 in the morning on Thursday, December 17th. And we are going to be talking about this trending topic of what can an unlicensed assistant do and how do you pay them? We've got so many questions that people were asking, so we've asked the attorney Rick Mack to join us, and we're going to get some Q&A on that. If you have questions or if you'd like to send me, feel free. I, of course, welcome them. And at the end of today's webinar, don't forget, we do have that survey, so please fill it out and let me know topics that you would like to hear. As always, today's webinar has been recorded and will be available on our website. The link is at the top, and I'll also include the link in the follow-up email. And Kimberly Franzen here at AAR has worked diligently to include all of our 2016 upcoming classes on our website, so please feel free to look for all of them coming online. Don't forget, we offer webinars. We have the new live streaming classes, and of course at all of our local associations. And folks, we do appreciate you joining us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you, Tricia, for joining us.
Kelly.
We appreciate it, and we hope you have a great week. Thank you.